Hari Om to all. I'll start by Saraswati, invoking Saraswati, Ma Saraswati goddess. Ya Devi Sita Pankaja Sanavara Sinaksha Malakara Veena Jankriti Nashta Sarva Jadata Smera Prafulla Nana Ya Vakyartha Pada Pramana Vibhava Ya Sarva Bhashatmika Tam Vacha Madhidevatam Bhagavatim Vande Sada Bharati. So, little bit, about the Chinmay Mission and the DCF both together in collaboration have arranged for this these two talks today. So, Chinmayananji, Gurudev Chinmayanandi, who is fondly called Gurudev now in the mission and other way elsewhere. So, recently we celebrated his 108th Jayanti Utsava on 8th of May. When he came to Veliyanad, Veliyanad is some 30-40 kilometers from Kaladi. Kaladi everybody knows as Shankaracharya's birth home, which is not. Veliyanad is the birth home because Shankaracharya's parents, his mother, lived in that Melpar Mana, that house. That house is preserved by Chinmaya Mission. And when Gurudev learnt about that it is on sale because Shankaran Nambudri, the owner of that, he couldn't maintain it and he was about to sell it off. And then Gurudev said, whatever he asked for, give something more on it, don't bargain, don't negotiate, we want it for the spiritual thing. And that's how in 1989, Chinmaya International Foundation got founded, got established. And you know what, Gurudev, when he stepped there first, he said that this is the land which is the birth home, his birth room is also preserved. His Upanayana Samskara was held in that very quadrangle of the Mana. So it's a very sacred place you must visit. This is an invitation to you all. When you come to India, when you come to Kerala, do visit Kerala. It's a beautiful state, all green, and especially Veliyanad. From Kochi, it is hardly 1.5 hours. And we have rooms and all, so we can make all the arrangements for you once I know of it. So when he landed here and he said that here one day there will be an institution, a university, which will be a bridge between past and present, east and west, tradition and technology, spirituality and science, and Pandit and public. And now exactly, these talks, like Shrikantji introduced, that today I am going to talk on Sanskrit, the language, which is the bedrock of all the knowledge systems, okay? It's a knowledge tank, the word he used is knowledge tank. But then this is all ancient. Ancient has to be wedded with modern. Whatever is past has to be wedded with present, right? And the present, as you rightly said, is AI. So even this talk now, I'm really so amazed to see it is, we didn't plan for it. But then when Sujata ji requested me, why don't you say a little bit about Chinmaya International Foundation, Chinmaya Mission, etc. And I really thought of, oh, this is really the connection. So I'm going to talk about the past language, which is still present. We can converse in Sanskrit. But then, the application of that language in the modern world, which is now GPT, the Bharat GPT, or AI, artificial intelligence, how it is suitable, why it is suitable. What is so great in Sanskrit that it is used for the LLM, natural language processing and all that. Otherwise, computers talk about their own languages, but to talk about human language, natural language, that is something great, right? And how and why it is so adaptable, Sanskrit is so adaptable. But before that, I would like to take you through, how Sanskrit has touched every sphere of human life. So what are all the knowledge systems in the world, we can say. I roughly divide, have you heard of the term Chaturdasha Vidyasthana or Ashtadasha Vidyasthana, the 14 branches of knowledge or 18 branches of knowledge, right? So we start with that. 14 branches of knowledge comprise of 4 Vedas, which I'm sure everybody knows, Rugya, Yajur, Sama, Atharva, 4 Vedas. Then 6 Vedangas, these are the ancillary texts. Vedarthaha Angyate Gamyate Adena iti Vedangam. So that technical side of the Vedic literature, which helps in understanding the meaning of the Vedic mantras, and these are phonetics, the science of phonetics, Shiksha, then Kalpa, the ritual aspect, Shiksha Kalpa, Vyakarana, grammar, obviously no language can flourish without grammar, Nirukta, that is etymology, science of etymology, Chanda, that is prosody, and Jyotisha, that is astronomy. So these are the 6 Vedangas. So 6 and 4 make 10, and then 4 Upangas, which consist of the Itihasa Puranas, Ramayana, Mahabharata as the Itihasa, and 18 Puranas first, then Upa Puranas and other Puranas. So the number goes on, but then minimum 18 Puranas, that forms one group, Itihasa Purana. Dharma Shastra, these are the sciences, the texts, the scriptures which tell you what to do and what not to do, the do's and the don'ts. So Dharma Shastra. Then Mimamsa, that is hermeneutics, the science of interpretation of the Vedic statements or any word. And you know what? This Mimamsa is profusely used in jurisprudence, because in jurisprudence what you need to do is interpret the sentences, right? So from one party the advocate will interpret it in one manner and the other advocate will interpret it. It's all interpretation, isn't it? So it's a science of interpretation called Mimamsa. And the last is Nyaya, that is Tarka, logic, reasoning, deliberation. Aristotelian logic we know, we have the whole Nyaya Shastra. So the 4 Vedas, 6 Vedangas and the 4 Upangas make it 14. Chaturdasha Vidyasthana. You add 4 more to that, that is Upavedas, Dhanurveda, Ayurveda, it's an Upaveda of Rigveda. Dhanurveda is the Upaveda of Yajurveda. Gandharva Veda is the Upaveda of Samaveda. Gandharva Veda is something to do and everything to do with singing and performing arts, etc. And Arthaveda, Arthashastra, which is the Upaveda of Atharva Veda. Okay? So 4 you add, it becomes 18 lores of Indian knowledge systems, what we call IKS nowadays. And then you add some Agama Granthas to that. There are Shaiva Agamas, then Shakta Agamas, and 215 Vaishnava Agamas. So this is the number. Agama literature is the Tantra literature. If you have heard of the words Nigama Agama, so Nigama means Vedic literature, Agama means this Tantra literature, Shaiva, Shakta and Vaishnava. And then there are so many sciences in Sanskrit. So this is all the corpus of the knowledge. This is the what? Knowledge tank, reservoir of knowledge, and how every knowledge, every branch of knowledge, the basic test you find in Sanskrit. Samskritochistam jagat sarvam, everything. Jutla diya hai Sanskrit ne. Sanskrit has tested everything and then it has come to you through regional languages and all. Okay? And if this Sanskrit is lost, this is like, Sanskrit is the thread in which all these different sciences, different branches of knowledge are woven together. Sutre, Manigana iva, as we say, right? If the thread is broken, all the gems will scatter here and there. Some may be lost forever. And therefore we have to maintain, preserve and respect that thread that is Sanskrit. Okay? Otherwise all the gems, the beads will be lost forever. And therefore this is what I wanted to say first, that Samskritochistam Jagat Sarvam. Now as a language, what is the importance? I mean, you may say, I can know all these texts by reading the translations thereof. What is the need to learn Sanskrit? Okay, there are secondary texts in Vedas, in Ramayana, Mahabharata. Everywhere you have the secondary texts. Why do you need Sanskrit? Is language that important? Yes, language also is that important. I'll tell you one example from Agastya Samhita, which is a text on chemistry. Okay, and this text which gives you Agastya Samhita, there is a verse, And if you don't know the language Sanskrit, and if you don't know the how Sanskrit could be used in a very cryptic manner, very like a puzzling manner, you can't solve that puzzle, then you don't know the meaning of the verse. Even if you know Sanskrit, if you don't know how to decode it, decipher it, you can't get the essence of that. Okay, so this particular verse which I am going to tell you, you can find it in Pride of India, which is published by Samskrita Bharati, Pride of India. And there are some posters of Vijnana Bharati as well. On the science part, you can see that, and they are available, okay, in Samskrita Bharati, Vijnana Bharati, posters, etc. So this verse gives you a recipe, of making a battery cell. This is battery cell. Samsthapya mrinmaye patre tamrapatram susamskritam. Mrinmaye patre, you take an earthen jar, okay? And then tamrapatram susamskritam, place a well cleaned copper sheet in that. Tamrapatram, copper, okay? In that earthen vessel. Chadaye shikhi grivena ardabhihi kashthapansubihi. Kashthapansu is the sawdust. Randha martat na. So sawdust. Ardra, that is moist. So the moist sawdust, you have to spread it there. And chadayet shikhi grivena, and you have to cover it by shikhi griva. What is shikhi griva? Better. Chadaye shikhi grivena ardrabhihi kashthapansubihi dastaloshto nidhatavyaha paradachaditastataha sanyoga jayate tejo mitra varuna samnyatam. So when you place that clean sheet of copper in that earthen vessel, cover it first by the shikhi griva. I'll tell you what it is, shikhi griva, and then and it is covered by sawdust as well, and then put a mercury amalgamated zinc sheet, dastaloshto nidhatavyaha parada achaditaha. Parada is mercury, dasta is zinc, okay? So these two plates also you have to keep there, and the contact will produce an energy. Sanyoga jayate tejaha Mitra Varuna Samnyatam. This will be known as the twin name of Mitra Varuna, and this is Mitra Varuna is Pranavayu and Udana that is the oxygen and the hydrogen, and this is the theory which has been given to create the energy, Teja. Now here the word Shikhi Griva. What is the meaning of Shikhi? Shikha asya asti iti. So Shikhi is a peacock. Shikha, right? So Shikhi, this is a common synonym of a peacock. Those who know Sanskrit would know that Shikhi, right, Ajitji? So Shikhi is the name for a peacock. Griva is neck. Griva is neck. Do you mean to say that you have to cut the neck of the peacock and put it in the earthen vessel, where you have put the copper plate and you are covering it with the sawdust, moist sawdust and all? No, certainly not, right? So Shikhi Griva is the color, something which resembles the color of Shikhi Griva. What is the color of Shikhi Griva? Blue. What is that substance, chemical thing? Chemical in copper sulfate, CuSO4. So you put copper sulfate in. Now why I am telling you particularly this example, how the language is also important, and now you would say, oh, but this language is so cryptic, who would understand it? It is not meant for everybody, because it will be abused and misused, and therefore some technical literature, scientific literature is written in this encoded manner. If you don't know that, if you can't decipher that, then you can't make a battery. And you know what? In Chinmay International Residential School, there is a school in Coimbatore, you may be knowing. It's a number one school in CBSE pattern in India today, and all NRI students etc. study there. So they actually did this experiment. In the classroom, right? And they produced this battery. So for better effect, you can produce it in hundreds of jars, So that is how it's not that Sanskrit, there is a misconception that Sanskrit is a language of Vedas, Sanskrit is the language of Vedanta and Bhagavad Gita and nothing beyond it. It's not true, right? And therefore, I may guide you to, recently I had, in May month, last May end I think, I had a launch pad in Sanskrit, some 4 lectures, first lecture is available on YouTube, Sanskrit Launchpad Gauri Mahulikar, you can say, you can search on YouTube and you can find it, okay? So what is all there in Sanskrit, I am not going to repeat because that's already there in the open domain. But then how Sanskrit is useful, this I quoted from Agastya Samhita, which is a chemistry text. You take any other text, I have taken some 3-4 texts, okay? 3-4 branches of knowledge. For example, Vyakarana, grammar. Now the simple thing, grammar, Sanskrit is such a, what you can say, or I'll take that, I'll come to that little later, okay? In architecture, for example, Vastu Shastra, by the way, the Upaveda of Atharva Veda, some people say it is Artha Shastra, some people say it is Vastu Shastra, okay? So Vastu Shastra is also regarded as the Upaveda. Now there, they take you, 2 types of cities are there. It's all town planning, house planning, Shala Nirmana, everything is there in Vastu. Vastu is not that, which nowadays in every nook and corner we have a Vastu expert. Oh, you have to keep this thing in the northeast and the cupboard in the northwest, Nairutya Disha and all that. That is not the Vastu. Vastu is Vastu Nirmana, constructing something. It's engineering and architecture basically, okay? So there they talk about 2 types of cities, Rajadhani and Shakha Nagara. Now you all know Rajadhani or the main city, and we call suburbs Shakha Nagara. Shakha is what? Branching out. So when the main city branches out, like in Karnataka we have Hampi, okay? And then Hampi, during the Krishnadevaraya's rule, it started expanding more and more and more people were attracted towards that. The city was not sufficient enough to accommodate all that, all those immigrants. And therefore it had to expand. And then we have Hospet. Those who know Kannada here, Hosa is new, Peta is Pet. In Marathi we call Mangalwar Pet, this Pet, that Pet. So Hospet, that's a new settlement. So that's a Shakha Nagar. Shakha is branch. Tree is the whole trunk of tree, that is the main thing. It branches out. In Shakha, in the Nirukta, I was telling you, this is one of my favorite texts, Nirukta, and whichever lecture I may give, I will bring in Nirukta there in somehow or the other. But it is not somehow or the other. Shakha, I am reminded of that. What is the Nirukti of Shakha? Shakha is a branch, everybody knows. Why it is called Shakha, very interestingly. And practically also say, wow, we didn't think of it in that manner. So Shakha, Kha is Antariksha, void. Khe, Antarikshe, Sherate, Shete iti Shakha. So that which sleeps, reclines in the Antariksha. How are the branches of the big tree, the banyan tree, the peepal tree, the branches are like horizontal to the ground, as if they are sleeping there, reclining, So Khe, Antarikshe, Sherate. Sherate is the Bahuvachana of Shete. So Shete iti Shakha. Anyhow, so Rajadhani and Shakha Nagara. The word Shakha is also very interesting. And in that suburbs, we have so many varieties. Like Kheta, Kharvata, which is a thorny place. Then Nigamu, Nagaru, etc. Gramaha, that is a Samuha, some sort of settlement. For example, we have Bhillag Gramaha, we have Gopak Gramaha, the settlement of bills, the settlement of cowherd boys, Gokul, Gopak Gramaha. So this is one particular community staying at one place. Then there is Vrunda or Vraja, These also, Vrindavana is also named after that only. And then there is a Vishesha Shahara, Rajadhani, Shakhanagara, Vishesha Shahara. This is how, town planning is done. If you see, go to Chandigarh, it's a planned city. Washington DC, I'm told yesterday, today only, it's a planned city. Rajdhani Vasavane, we say, you establish a Rajdhani. So planned city. And Pattana is another word, Visakhapattanam, Machilipattanam, right? So Pattana is Pattana, Patanti, Gachanti, Janaha, Yasmin, Tad Nagaram, Mahat Nagaram. So many people come there. It's like a port, big port, where people from outside also come, they visit. So Avagaman rehta hai wahan pe. So Pattana. So these names are also, if you don't understand the nuances of the language and you don't split it, you can't take the meaning there of, oh, this is why it is called so. We have been calling it, oh, this is Pattana, Patan in Gujarat. What is Patan? It's Pattana basically. Pattana, right? And so that was about the Vastu. Now take the Ayurveda. Ayurveda, the very definition of Ayurveda is Swasthasya Swasthya Rakshanam Aturasya Vikara Prashamanam. Now if you take the meaning of the word Swastha, what is Swastha? Aap swasth hai? हाँ, मैं बिल्कुल स्वस्थ हूँ. Swastha, you split the word Swa plus Tha. Stha is to stay, to remain. Swa, Swasmin. One who stays, remains in his own self, reposes in his own self. He is not worried about anything. And one who is relaxed, therefore, and he stays, abides in his own self, is called Swastha. And when can a person be really Swastha? When his environment is Swastha. When his ecosystem is good and conducive, then only he be Swastha. If I am healthy but my child is suffering, I can't be Swastha. If I am healthy but my pet is suffering, I can't be Swastha. So the entire ecosystem, and therefore we have Shanno Dvipade Sham Chatushpade, the Dvipada as well as Chatushpada, the everything, it's inclusive in our Swasthya. And Swasthasya Bhavaha Swasthyam. So the word Swastha is so very poignant, so very meaningful, so pregnant with meaning, And if you take the definition of WHO, what is health, that will give you the physical, mental, emotional, spiritual well-being. Spiritual they don't include, they include only physical and mental. But we go beyond that, emotional. The Swastha, if I am disturbed, I'm stressed out in the office, in the workplace, I can't be Swastha. So everything, the emotional well-being, the spiritual well-being. So this is related to, the wider concept of Panchakosha, in a way. Annamaya, Pranamaya, Manomaya, Vijnanamaya, Anandamaya. So everything is covered in that one word. Isn't it significant? So this is the beauty of Sanskrit, and how it comes we will see. Because Sanskrit has a nature of analysis and synthesis, and that's what helps AI. Okay? That will come little later. Now there is how, sometimes I can multiply the examples. From botany I have some example, Arthashastra I have some example, and one Vedic word I will take because I am a researcher in Vedic studies. In the Vedas there is a Usha Sukta, a Sukta to early dawn, Usha. And there Admasanna Sasato Bodhayanti Shashvattamaga Punareyushinam. That meaning you forget. That meaning I am not going to tell you. The word Admasad here. Admasad could be split. Adma is one word and Sad is another word. Now Adma is Anna. Adma, that which is eaten. Atti, to eat. Okay. So Adma Annam. Sayanacharya, the earliest commentator, he also says Adma Annam Bhavati. And very in a pejorative manner, in a derogative manner, this German interpretation of that, Geldner, he has translated that, and it has percolated down to English translations after the German. He translates this as a fly. Admasad is fly because it sits on the food. Sadasidati is to sit. Okay. Now, apparently, Adma is Anna. Sadasida, in Upanishad we have the same word, asana from Sadasida, right? So, Sada is to sit. No two opinions about it. Adma is Anna. No two opinions about it. So, if you take only the lexical meaning, Adma Sad would mean that which sits on the foot, and he has taken it as a fly. But here you have to know the culture. As you know, we always say language is a medium of communication. Does it rest there? No, it's much more. Beyond that, it's a vehicle of our culture. It carries our culture with it. It's not just a language, that communicates. It carries whole lot of cultural background in that, and those who don't know that will translate it as Adma Sarva, that which sits on foot. So Sanskrit, while reading Sanskrit, while deciphering that, they must have encountering many such things, Ganeshji, I'm quite sure you must come across so many such words which are very tricky. How do you translate those words? That's very tricky and challenging. So this is Admasad is a special class of priests who are fed in the Shraddha before everyone else gets the food. So they are the first, they are prioritized, they are preferred. So Usha Devi is one such deity who comes first early in the morning. All other gods, they are Ushar Buddha. They awake once Usha comes, So whole lot of this Vedic culture and civilizational truths are hidden in that. So when you are translating, just don't go by the lexical meaning, because there is a cultural background to that. Okay, so this I wanted to bring out, and then I think I should give him more time, because his is an applicative part, and I can go on I have a few more examples in Arthashastra also, but then I would rather skip it, and I would go to grammar, because that is the base of everything. And it says, it's a perfection in utterance. Vi a karana, vi a plus kru. Vi is visheshana, a is a samantat. Every prefix also, it carries meaning. Prefixes are not arbitrarily used. Like we say acharya and pracharya. What is the difference? Acharya is a teacher. What is a pracharya? Prakrishtaha acharya. You add some meaning to that, value addition. And experience now for rules also, you must have these many years of experience to become a principal. It's not like you join today and you become principal. So Prakrishtaha acharya, one who has put in lot many of his years and experienced one, he is called pracharya. So every upasarga has certain meaning to that. And definite places in the mouth cavity, all the words, and this is true for any language of the world, okay. Now, because Panini has assigned specific places in the mouth cavity, they are named like that. For example, ka, kha, ga, gha, nga is kanthya. Cha, cha, ja, jha, ya is palate. Then ta, tha, da, dha, na, our tongue touches the roof, you can say, of the mouth, right? Ta, tha, da, dha, na, murdanya. Then ta, tha, da, dha, na, dantya. And pa, pha, ba, bha, ma, oshtya, labials, right? And therefore, you can't pronounce these words if you don't touch that particular organ. Try pronouncing pa, pha, ba, bha, ma without touching your lips. You I mean, so this is the perfection. Even the swaras. A is kanthya, for example. E is talavya. O is oo. Oshtya, our lips, oo. O. You can see in front of mirror, you stand and then try to pronounce all these words, right? And then how the air coming from our nabhi, it touches all the organs and there is a friction, and therefore our vani, which we articulate, is called vaikhari. Khara is rough. Khara is rough, right? Khara and mrudu. Mrudu is soft. Khara is kharkharit In Marathi we say kharkharit, very rough, right? So vaikhari, visheshena khara, because unless there is a friction of the vayu which comes out, there won't be any articulated sound. Uchcharan nahi ho sakta. So everything has a theory for that, okay? And this theory, because this we can apply when we say that Sanskrit is a language which you can have by synthesizing 2-3 things together, 2-3 components, or there is a word given to you, you analyze that, you split that. Like I told you, shakha, sh is from she, shete, and kha is kha, okay? Upanishad, for example, upasarga, upa is near. Ni is on a lower level. So Upanishad, the guru is seated on the jhadacha paravar baslet guru, right? And the shishyas are seated down, little lower level. And sada is to sit. Okay. Sadarlu visharane, Shankaracharya would say in the Kathopanishad, Bhashya of the Upanishad, sada has different meanings, that is to loosen as well. And this loosening meaning we come across only in the Bhagavad Gita. Sidanti mama gatrani mukham cha parishishyati vaipathuscha sharire me bhumarashya jayate gandivam, etc. Sidanti mama gatrani. So what is loosened in Upanishad? All your worldly bondages get loosened, your ajnana gets removed, and you are enlightened. That is the knowledge which Upanishad contains. So what we have done here in Upanishad? Upa, Ni, and then Sada. We are analyzing it. We are disintegrating the word into smaller components, meaningful components, not wherever we want we can split it, but then meaningful components, and then we derive at a meaning. Don't you feel that anything which is analyzed properly to derive at a proper meaning will be helpful for the computers? Because it's analytical, right? And then you put all these. So wherever this upa comes, it will mean the same thing. Upahara griha, restaurant. Upahara. It is not upahara griha, by the way. I made it change, in our Borivali, Saudin, you must know, our Prabodhan Thakre. They had written it upahar griha. I met the manager and said it is not upahar. Upahar is gift. Upahara. Ahara is food. Upa-ahara, something going near your meals. It's not full meals. It is something nearing the full meals. Upa-ahara, upahara griha. So everywhere you see that word now, upa is near, right? So you can split it and know where the meaning would change. A is to take, and therefore A iti arva agarthe, they say. Ahara, okay, jane do. Too much of Sanskrit grammar. Okay, and otherwise, this is analysis, I told you. Other way could be synthesizing the two. That means you bring two words together, the Prakriti and Pratyaya together, and you form a word. You synthesize, okay. For example, I tell you the word Jala. Jala is water, okay. Jalada, what is the meaning of Jalada?
Fast.
Dhag. Jalada, one who gives water. Da is to da is to give. Da, dana, da sampradane. So Jaladaha, Varidaha, Toyadaha, Payodaha. As many words for water are there, you add the to that, it will mean C-L-O-U-D. You have only one word in English. You can have 101 words in Sanskrit, because water has 101 synonyms according to Nighantu, Nirukta, and Brahma Sutra. Okay? So this is how you synthesize. Now the same word Jala, okay, you attach the suffix Pratyaya as Ja. Ja is born of, emerging of, born, produced. Jalaja, born of water. What is it?
Fish. Jalaja is
Jalajasana?
lotus.
Lotus. Jalaja is lotus. Sarasija, lotus. Saroja, lotus. So anything which means water or water reservoir, and you add ja to that, it becomes a lotus. Now you go on adding more, synthesizing. You coin hundreds of words. Why Sanskrit vocabulary is so rich? Why we have Lalita Sahasranama? Why we have Vishnu Sahasranama? Why there are so many thousands of names you can coin? You can add, go on adding and lengthening the compounds, it becomes a big word for that. Jalajasana Vinuta Rama, Mulla Ramayana, Telugu person, a potter's daughter, Mulla, in 14th century, she composed the Ramayana. She writes in a highly Sanskritized Telugu, Jalajasana Vinuta Shri Janaki Rama. Jalajasana Vinuta. Jalaja is lotus. Jalajam asanam yasya. Jalajasana Kamalodbhava Brahma. Brahmadeva. Vinuta. Tena Vinuta. So Shri Rama, Janaki Rama, who is being, saluted by Jalajasana, even Brahma. Highly Sanskritized Telugu. Can you call it Telugu? Very wonderful. So like that you can go on coining. Now the same thing, you add another pratyaya, another word, not pratyaya here, a word you add. Nidhi. Nidhi is what? Store. Nidhi is treasure, satha. Satha, store. So treasure, nidhi, okay? Jala nidhi, ocean. Jala nidhi, ocean. Dhi or nidhi, dhi not dirgha. Dirgha dhi is buddhi. But dhi, rasva, as nidhi. Nidhi, nidhi, both mean the same. And you know what? The Sanskrit people, some Subhashitakaras, they have done such a wonderful job. I mean, learning Sanskrit through Subhashitas is a joyful manner of learning Sanskrit. I tell you. You learn Subhashitas and you learn Sanskrit thereby. And I think I will be ending because I want to give him more time. I haven't seen his presentation. Okay, so this one is, Kartikeya, Kartikeya has 6 heads. Okay. Now, one day, he told his father Shiva, oh father, oh dad, why are you holding this Ganga on your head? My mother doesn't like. They are co-wives. जमता नहीं है, right? सौतन है. So, तात मूर्धनि विधृता गंगेयम उत्सृज्यताम. You let her go, no, somewhere. Why are you holding her on top? You are making Parvati sit on your lap, but Ganga you are holding on the top of your jata. Does it behove you? No. Tata, Murdhni Vidhuta Gangeyam Vitsrujjata. Tata is बिचारे बैठे हैं योग में निद्रा में, वो कहाँ reply करेंगे? It is Ganga who replies, and she says, Vidwan Shanmukha, oh, you are so clever, Shanmukha. You tell me, I have been staying here for years, eternally I am here. Where would I go? Murdhni sthitayaha chiram ka gatihi me vada. Where should I go? Tell me. I have been staying here. Chiram. Eternally I have been staying here. Kopa vesha vashadashesha vadanai pratyuttaram dattavan patho dhir jaladhir payodhir udadhir varan nidhir varidhi. Now the thing is, the last line enumerates 6 names for ocean. Okay, you have sea and ocean, only 2 names. Sea and ocean, big, but only 2 names. Here you can, as I told you, 101 synonyms. You add ja to that, it gives you lotus. You add the to that, it gives you the cloud. You add dhi or nidhi to that, it gives you ocean. He said, why are you asking me where should I go? Gopa vesha vasha. Angrily he replied, why don't you go to ocean? And because there are 6 heads, 6 names came from his mouth. Patho dhir jaladhir payodhir udadhir varan nidhihi varidhi. 6 names. This is the enriching value of Sanskrit. Now you can imagine if there are multiple heads, you can have multiple names. Who else could be there? Ravana. Somebody said Ravana. Dashanana. And there is one Subhashita on that. I won't recite everything. So the thing was, this was the game, fun factor. This is given, the last line is given as Samasya Purti. Somebody, the king, they used to have such Shastrartha and, diversion, the Hasya, like that in the Darbar. So last line has been provided by the king and it's an open challenge. You construct 3 meaningful sentences and complete the verse, complete the shloka. So one particular person completed it with Kartikeya, 6 nouns, 6 names for Varidhi, for ocean. And another person comes, oh, I'll add 4 more to that. And what is the situation, Ravana is seated on his throne and somebody comes as a messenger, a spy and says, do you know Maharaj, Rama has already built a setu. Rama is there on that corner, Dhanushkodi, and he has already built a setu, so any moment he will be here. Ravana is like, how could it be? Baddha satyam, satyam, are you telling the truth? Baddha satyam apannidhi, kilaladhistoyadhi, and then the last line again, pathodhir jaladhir payodhir. So 4 more names in the first line. When he hears the Varta, the Vartika brings, Sachakitaha and Bhitya Param Sambramath, he is afraid. He Chakita, how could it be? And then Sambrama, he's confused now what to do. So Bhiti, Sambrama and Chakitatva, with all these 3 feelings, he Turinam. At one go he asked the Vartika, is it true? And then he enumerated 4 names in the 3rd line and these 6 names as they are. So isn't it wonderful?
Yes.
So this is how you make, you construct. So you take different components, bring them together. So integration, disintegration, Sanskrit language allows you very easily. And that is the reason I feel, I'm not an expert in computer science, but that is the whole, the nature of the language which provides you, which facilitates you to bring it to the mechanical thing. This is all, what it has. It's a well-structured language. Prakriti, Pratyaya, Adhishthita. So you, everywhere, even if you say in the Ramaraksha, Ramena Abhyata Nishachara Chamu Ramaya Tasmai Nama Raman Nasti Parayana, the Vibhakti is also, you take the Pratipadika Rama and add Vibhakti Pratyaya to it and the words mean different. Ramaha and Ramena are not same. Ramaha and Ramasya are not same, right? And what causes the difference is the Pratyaya. So be it a prefix, be it a suffix, everything is meaningful. It carries the meaning with it wherever it goes. And this I feel is exactly the reason why the analytical part and the synthesizing part of a language makes it more convenient, more adaptable for the device, the technical device, the mechanical device as computers. And from here, I would request Ganeshji to take it ahead. And there could be some other opinions also. For me, I think this is the best reason why Sanskrit, everybody says, it is first James Briggs from NASA who got this, that NLP and all that in 70s. He wrote a paper. And after that, there have been so many, from 78 or onwards, there have been so many developments and technical advancements. And we have reached now where Sanskrit could be, most significantly used for computers and AI. Hari Om, thank you.